Ladies and gentlemen, Coach Bobby Bowden.
Thank you very much, Ron. Ladies and gentlemen, distinguished guest, and that's all the protocol you're going to get from me. I wish Joe could be here tonight. I'll tell you how popular I am. This summer, Ann and I were driving from Tallahassee, Florida, down to Tampa. It was about 12 o'clock at night, and needed some gas. Came into a little town called Chiefland, about halfway. And so everything's closed at Chiefland about 6. That big of a town. And so when we found a station that was open, one of those one pump stations. And so we pulled in, and I started gassing my car, and I could see the guy sitting inside there looking out, see who was out there, I could tell he spotted me. And so he kind of came to the door and watched me pump, and then he walked out there and said, I know who you are. I know who you are. I said, yeah. He knows I'm the football coach at Florida State. He said, did you used to be Bobby Bowden? So it doesn't take you long, to find out what it's really all about. But and I've got to tell one other story. I know it's after 10, but I've got to tell it because it has something to do with this hotel here. First time I've been here since about 1975 when I was at West Virginia. I used to come to the Hall of Fame dinner every year because I could drive, So anyway, my wife and I drove up from Morgantown to here and got us a room and everything, and we're not used to that kind of luxury, and so we check in and go up to our room, then we go out and eat and then come back. And so my wife said, this was right after the Watergate. You remember Watergate? My wife said, I bet you this room's bugged, And she said, all these big important hotels where a lot of dignitaries come, they bug them. And I said, no, Ann, they wouldn't bug this place, But I got to thinking about it. Well, she went on to bed, and so I started looking around. I looked over the door sill, I looked under the keyhole, and I looked under the bed and behind the flowers. I searched the room. No, it wasn't bugged. Couldn't find anything. Started to go to bed. Looked out in the middle of the floor, and there was a little rug out there, little 8x4 rug. I said, I bet you something's under that. Something is under that. It's too suspicious. So I go over and I pick that rug up, and sure enough, there's a little steel plate about that size there with a screw in this end, a screw in that end. So I go get me a dime, and I unscrew the screw here, then I unscrew the other screw, then I lift it up and look it over, and there's nothing there. Nothing there, so it ain't bugged, right? So I screw it back in, and I go back, and this place ain't bugged. We get up the next morning, go down, check out, when we're going to check out. And the girl said, was your room okay? Oh, yeah, it was good. Did y'all, everything was okay? Oh, yeah, everything was fine. Well, you heard about the people underneath you, didn't you? No. Chandelier fell on them. So anyway, are you sure it's after 10? Ann and I are going to fly back home tonight because I got to speak down there. But I do want to thank. I thanked as many men as I could today that were members of our National Football Foundation for this award. Again, I wish Joe could have been here because it was kind of presented to both of us. They called us last year. They waived the death rule. You used to have to be retired so long or either dead. So they waived the dead part, And so I also waive the other retired. So I'm very thankful. I know Joe is too. You'll have him here next year. When I think of all the men that have won this award, I really can't believe it, really. You know what? I just never thought something like this would happen to me, and I'm sure Joe feels very much the same way. But I look back at people like Eisenhower and MacArthur, who was a child, man, coming up, you know, during World War II. MacArthur, what an idol he was to me. And then, of course, the Kennedys and the Reagans, and then Jackie Robinson. You know, who has been bigger in athletics and sports than Jackie Robinson? So it's just something that's hard for me to comprehend. 1958 is when Eisenhower got the first gold medal award. Now, in 1958, I was a head football coach at South Georgia College down in Douglas, Georgia. That was my first head job. I'd been there 4 years at that time. And the reason I mentioned that a lot of those South Georgia boys are here tonight. I don't know, where are y'all sitting? Would you stand up, wave your hand? Where are they? Where are they? Anyway, we had our 51st year reunion this past June, and we'll have our 52nd year reunion this coming June, you know. And but I think there's a story there. I think there's a story there. I think it shows the fact that these, I keep saying boys, yet they're all over 70. Well, hey, they was older than me, some of them guys, when I was coaching. I was 25, and some of those guys been to Korea, you know, they were 27. But anyway, I think there's a story there that these men are here tonight because it shows you the bond that occurs between a coach and a player. Did you know that's about the strongest bond there is between a man and a boy, is a coach to a player? It should be father to son. It should be father to son. And we who are lucky enough to have fathers, that's true. But there's so many football players I coach today, that don't have fathers in the home. And men, we need to get back with our families. You know what? We need to raise these young men. In the years that I've been coaching, a young man needs a male figure in the home, doesn't he? Somebody to discipline him. They're raised by mothers. And thank God for mothers. Thank God for mothers. But a young man, his mother wakes him up, his mother puts his clothes out, his mother takes him to school, and his mother brings him home, and his mother takes him to practice, and his mother brings him home from practice. Mother cooks his supper, mother puts him in the bed, and it goes day after day after day. So he grows up, and he wants to be a man just like his mother. You know, so there's a little story there. And what I'm saying, the reason I even mention this to you, it's the greatest opportunity in the world for a football coach, or a coach of any sport really, to bond with these young men and help them get this male role model, you know, to help us come with it. And it's just a great privilege to be in this profession. Now, I'll finish by saying this. You know, when you get to be 77 years of age, now Joe's old. You know, Joe's old. I'm just 77, you know. But when you get to be my age, the one thing you can do is look back over your life. You know, I can look back and see exactly what happened to me. You know, I already know what's going to happen to me. It's already happened, you know. Most of you folks, you hadn't lived your life yet, especially these young boys that we're coaching. They don't know who they're going to marry. They don't know where they're going to live. They don't know what their job's going to be, you know. And they don't know what's going to happen. But I do, because it's behind me, you know, except a few years. And so as I look back on my life, I feel like I was born to coach. I just feel like I was born to coach. When I was born in 1929, that was when they had the Great Depression. Everybody lost their job. My granddaddy, who built courthouses in Alabama and Georgia, lost his job, went to the bank, tried to get his money, it was gone. Everybody was bankrupt. So what they do? They moved in with you. My dad kept his job. I bet he didn't make $25 a month, you know, but he kept his job, and granddaddy moved in with us. He slept in that bed right there. I slept in this bed right here. Then I had an uncle that lost his job, and another uncle. They moved in with us. I slept with 4 cousins in this bed. Granddaddy slept in that bed. I never slept alone. I got married, you know. But back to 1929, okay? Now this is why I think I was born to coach. The first 5 years of my life, my house backed up to the old Woodlawn High School football stadium, you know. So although I couldn't see through the fence, they had a big fence there. I couldn't see through it. I could hear them over kicking and playing and hitting and all that, and hear the band, you know. And I remember my dad would climb up on the garage and look over and watch those guys, whatever they were doing, up till I was about 5 years of age. Then we moved from there. We moved about 3 miles away, but I moved about a half of a block from the Howard College football practice field, you know. So I could walk out my front door and I could see them up there on the hill up there practicing. I could hear the ball being kicked. I could hear them yelling. I could hear them playing, you know. And so I had to walk right through that campus every day on the way to grammar school and on the way to high school. So I was always around football, which makes me think I must have been born to be a coach, you know. And so anyway, went to college, and when I finished college, it shows you how life worked for me. I graduated from college, and my coach called me in before I graduated. He said, Bobby, if you'll go get your master's degree, we'll hire you back here as an assistant football coach. Oh boy, I can't beat that. So I went off and got my master's degree, came back and coached there the next year. I coached there 2 years. Then I got a letter from a coach at South Georgia College, where these young men, these older men here tonight are represented, you know, from the president of South Georgia College saying, we're looking for a new football coach. Would you be interested? Well, yes, I'm an assistant here. I'd be very interested. So my wife and I go down and get interviewed. He says, I'll call you next week. I've got another guy on the interview. Well, he gives me the job. So we go down there. I think he paid me $4,200. That's about $300 more than I was making, man. It wasn't bad. You know, it's $25 a month more. And so anyway, we go down there, you know. I never heard of South Georgia College. How that guy got my name, I don't know. I coached there 4 years. We won 3 state championships. I think we tied the other one. And then the president called me in and said, we're dropping football. We're not making any money. And we had about 7 schools in Georgia that played junior college football. And everybody was losing money, so they had to drop it. The president said, we'd like for you to stay as athletic director and baseball coach, but no football. Folks, it was about a week later, I got a letter from Samford University, which my school had changed its name to Samford because it became a university. Said, we're looking for a head football coach. We'd like for you to come up here. Well, I did. I came up here and got the job, you know. I coached there 4 years. We went to a couple of bowls, had some good years. Then I ran into Bill Peterson, who was the head coach at Florida State, at a banquet. He said he'd lose an assistant. Would you be interested in coming to Florida State? Ann and I felt like I needed to get into a major college if I was ever going to make it into a major college. So we go to Florida State. I make them pay me a lot of money. So I go down there, and I'm an assistant coach for 3 years. Jim Carlin goes to West Virginia University as a head coach, wants me to come up as offensive coordinator, which I do. I'm offensive coordinator for 4 years, and he resigns all of a sudden, takes the head job at Texas Tech. They called me and they said, we want you to become our head coach. So I became the head coach at West Virginia. After 6 years there, Florida State comes open. They call me and want me to come down there as head football coach. Now, to make a long story short, what I'm trying to say is this. In my 54 years of coaching, I had 6 jobs, 4 different states. I didn't apply for a single one of those jobs. They were all handed to me. They said, we want you as our coach. That's why I say, as I look back on my life, I feel like this is the way it was meant to be, you know. Now, somebody might say, oh, that's fate. That's just fate, man. You know, it's just kind of meant to be. No, it's not fate. It's faith. It's faith, F-A-I-T-H. It's a belief. It's a trust, you know, that things like this will happen. And if I can use a military term, you know, I love to read military history. I'm a big fan of that. And as I've analyzed generals down through the years, in my opinion, this is my opinion, Napoleon was the greatest of all. That's in my opinion, you know. Now, Stonewall Jackson must have felt the same way because he did a lot of quoting of Napoleon, you know. And then General Patton, when he came along, he did a lot of quoting on Napoleon too, you know. So I got a feeling it's pretty consensus that Napoleon was a great general. Now, Napoleon made a statement that it was this, and probably help all of us in our work. Do not take counsel of your fears. Do not take counsel of your fears. And when I read that, I thought that's pretty good. I wonder what he's trying to say. Then I got to reading the autobiography of Stonewall Jackson. He said the same thing. Don't take counsel of your fears. Now, I've mentioned this to my coaches, by the way. And then when Patton comes along, if you read, Patton comes along 80 years later, you read his book, he says the same thing, you see. And so what you're trying to say, don't get tied up in your fears or you won't do anything. You won't do anything, you know what? But instead, he says, but instead of counsel of your fears, he says, but an abiding trust in providence. Trust in providence. Now, what is providence? Well, you look it up, you know. He said, in securing success, look to providence. Now, let me finish by one little thing here. If you wondered what I believe and what my philosophy of life would be, I think this would. When I was inducted into the Alabama Hall of Fame about 20 years ago, I read this poem, and I'm going to read it, and I'll go sit down. It's called God's Hall of Fame. Now, I can't get a bigger award than the one they're giving me tonight. I don't think football can give me an award any bigger than that. It ain't out there, you know. And I ain't retiring or nothing, but it ain't out there, you know. And that and the Hall of Fame. But that's here. There's still one more out there. Listen to this poem. I think this came from John Wooden's book. I'm not sure. I forgot where I got it. It says, to have your name up there is greater yet by far than all the Hall of Fames down here in every man-made star. This crowd, and men, you can all relate to this, how quick the crowd forgets you, you know. The crowd on earth, they soon forget the heroes of the past. They cheer like mad until you fall. That's how long you last. I tell you, friend, I would not trade my name, however small, if it's written there beyond the stars in that celestial hall, for any famous name on earth, a glory that they share. I'd rather be an unknown here and have my name up there. Thank you very much.